Good morning, everybody. Welcome to episode 16 of FranFunnel Live. You may notice the baseball bat over my right shoulder today. It is opening day of baseball. We're very excited here. All of Metric Collective are Atlanta Braves fans, so very excited for us to take on the Phillies this afternoon. But today we're not talking about baseball. We're going to talk a little bit about mobile site speed. We have one of our software engineers here, Adrian Delaserre, to talk about it. So Adrian, Google recently came out and said, when you're thinking about a mobile website, the most important thing to think about is making sure it loads quickly. I mean, would you agree with that statement? I mean, it seems pretty obvious, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody these days who has a smartphone and uses it to browse a web has experienced a site loading really, really slowly and just gone somewhere else.
Right.
Or close a tab because it's not a great experience. So by Google saying that, they're sort of codifying what everybody knows is that the mobile web should be faster, websites should load more quickly, and they can actually have the power to drive that by boosting fast loading sites in their rankings.
Absolutely, and we've talked about it before, but the idea of losing a potential lead or a potential customer that really, really wants to get involved with you because they're looking at a loading screen would be devastating. So the question, I guess, that I want to drive today's conversation is, I've seen the various engineers around here do this. So, you try to load a site and it takes forever to load on your phone. You, as a qualified person, generally you start to dig into why. What are the mistakes that companies out there are making that are causing their websites to load slowly on mobile?
So I think a really common one of these is having really large images, especially if you're a small to medium business and you sort of semi-maintain your own website, you have to upload images yourself. People take things right off their cameras or stock photos that they download at full resolution. And on a phone, those just kill everything. This could take 30 seconds to load, and then the phone gets hot trying to draw the whole picture. So the first step there that's super easy is just shrink your images down. That's step number one on any mobile site to make it faster. If you put your site into the Google Page Speed tool, it will identify the large images on any page on your website, and you can start with those.
And do you have a rule of thumb that in general each individual image should be no more than a certain megabyte size?
I mean, for the most part, unless you're a photography website, you don't need images probably more than a megabyte.
Okay.
Any image. Most computer screens are in the realm of 1 to 2,000 pixels wide. Your phone is a little bit smaller than that. So a rule of thumb that I tell people, when we upload images on franchisehelp.com, we just size them to about 1,500 pixels wide and save them as a JPEG with 75% quality.
Of course.
That generally hits, it looks good, and it loads fast.
So we have, that was actually what I would file under the silent killer, right? You don't even know, because there's no way as someone oh my God, I don't even realize my images are big. What are some of, we'll call it the sillier mistakes that people are making when you look at their website and you're just oh my God, I've seen you open the console before and take a look at that kind of stuff.
So something that is sort of insidious and hard to nail down as a non-technical person is the loading order of different files that you include on your website. So any website loads style sheets, which define the colors and the look, as well as JavaScript files, which make things interactive, carousels and sliding bits and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of a science to how you load those as the page comes up. And where a lot of people go wrong is putting lots of external tracking ad analytics pixels on their site, which are of varying speed and reliability. And if you install those wrong, the whole site can wait for them to load. So the idea is to put the critical things to show your site as it should look first, and all the tracking stuff at the end of the page. It's something I think most web developers can do. Otherwise, if you have sort of a prefab website, it's pretty difficult to achieve. But that's a big one. A lot of times, if you find that a website loads like part way and just sort of stalls there,
Yeah.
like maybe you see the header and then the rest of the page is just sitting there and it's still loading. A lot of times that's what's happening.
Yeah.
There's a JavaScript ad tracker for a site that's just down somewhere. And,
For sure.
And it's installed in a place where it blocks the whole page.
For sure. And to give people an idea, because I would say across Metric Collective, we're very wary of third-party injections. We do it for clients, but we're generally good actors. Give people the idea of kind of what the danger is from a loading speed perspective of, you're basically asking another website somewhere else and you're relying on them to help you load your page. Is that the idea?
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, you're relying on them. In the ideal case, it doesn't matter whether they load. But a lot of people, like I was just explaining, like cause it to be reliant on them. But really, like especially on mobile phones, the network on your phone is often slow. If you don't have 5 bars of LTE, you will find that sometimes requests just get stuck in the airwaves. So like every web request that the browser has to make out to another server adds overhead, adds loading time. So something that web developers will do to optimize a page for mobile is to try to reduce the number of total requests that the page makes. So take several different files, those JavaScript files, those CSS files that you would have to load independently, put them all together into one file.
Gotcha.
So that applies to these ad tracker pixels as well, where it's a good idea to just kind of keep track of like how many different ones you really need.
Yeah.
Most people find that like having a Google Analytics snippet and a Facebook tracking pixel are like good enough to get a long way.
Sure.
There are innumerable other tracking pixels that you can install, and those companies will tell you that it's absolutely required if you want to work with them. That's not always the case.
Sure. So we'll finish on this. I heard you mention a couple tools that you use or that we use around here. Google Mobile Site Speed would be one of them. But like, let's imagine you wanted to think or work with someone that knew about web development to think more about mobile site speed. What are some kind of, you don't have to describe them in detail, but just kind of throw out some of the things that people might want to check out to help with this problem.
These days, like most websites are run on some sort of CMS platform. Really popular ones, WordPress. For those, there's a huge improvement that you can make to any of them very easily just by installing a plugin to cache the page. So a lot of times what happens when you load a WordPress page is that it's assembling the page out of 25 different templates and putting them all together and doing a lot of work on the server behind the scenes before it shows you the final page. So there are these plugins that will save the rendered version of the page and keep it in memory for a half an hour or something. And so everybody who comes after the page has been rendered sees a pre-rendered version. It's pretty efficient and for most sort of marketing sites, it's one-click kind of an install.
Yeah.
You just turn it on and it works. And it can make a huge, huge improvement. Like a difference of taking like 2 or 3 seconds to load on mobile to less than half a second.
For sure.
That's actionable super easy if you use any sort of pre-canned CMS like that. A lot of the other sort of website platforms these days, Squarespace, web.com or whatever, will provide something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You may have to turn it on, but they can probably help boost that. Something else that Google is promoting right now is called AMP.
Okay.
It is a Google project to accelerate the web. It's called Accelerated Mobile Pages.
Okay.
And basically, it involves your site sending Google a reduced version
Ooh.
of the content. So
Okay.
basically just images and text. You have much less opportunity for tracking pixels or interactive components. And Google will then hold a version of that site on their servers. This gives you a boost in the search results if you provide this. And it means that when somebody clicks the link in the search results, the page is immediately visible.
Nice.
There's no loading or rendering.
Cool.
It's kind of a new territory right now. A lot of content publishers are using it to get people to load their sites really quickly.
Sure.
It sort of cuts through the process of having to figure out why your site is slow. I think we have not implemented it on franchisehelp.com. I think because of the restrictions it puts on like building a flow into the rest of your site. So like you can't have a lead form
Sure.
on an AMP page.
Gotcha.
Google likes that.
Sure.
Because you can get to a blog post or an article really easily. I think there are ways that you can get just as fast working on your site and serving the whole thing so that you can make it more engaging.
It makes sense to me. I think we're at an interesting tipping point now where it used to be desktop sites loaded slowly, and it was like normal, right? And now when you see a desktop site load very slowly, you think something's wrong, right?
Sure.
Is my internet out? Is the site broken? Whatever. Mobile, I feel like, is moving there now, right? Where we're still used to, oh, it can just be normal that sites load slowly, but like very quickly we're getting to the point where it just can't be normal, right? Like there's too many smart people and smart companies out there focusing on the mobile web experience that it almost will probably start to exceed the desktop experience in short order because that's what we're really kind of working on here.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're seeing over 60% of traffic from mobile phones and smart software engineers and people building for the web really start with the design and the development by looking at what it looks like on the phone. And then you kind of like extrapolate to a desktop browser.
Can't believe we've gotten here.
It's been a long time coming, and realistically, if your site is not fast and usable on a phone, you're missing massive opportunity.
Of course. Well, thank you for stopping by FranFunnel Live. I'm sure this was very helpful to a bunch of people who are sitting there staring at their own websites on their phone. And we'll have you back soon. Thank you, sir.